Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm Spiritualist, Psychic, Astrologer, and Medium Sette. As always, I thank you for offering me this opportunity to share with you my spiritual and astrological insights. And in this segment, we are looking to the month of July 2025. We're already halfway through this year, and as always, we inspire and encourage everyone to be in the moment, be present. Everything appears to be unfolding at lightning speed, and so that we can make the most of all the experiences and the blessings that we already enjoy. Be present. Yes, you know, with astrology, we do look to the future, and we, at least from my understanding, we are very mindful to be in the present as we are creating and bring to form whatever may come next, moment by moment by moment, based on our choices, our intentions, the words that we speak. Remember, we encourage everyone to recognize the power in the spoken word, and also how to welcome and use the tool of astrology in bringing forth all that we desire, as well as understanding, or rather offering a greater understanding as to all our human experiences and how we can make the most of it. There's so much going on astrologically this month. You know, sometimes I'm a little hesitant with sharing this the astrological information, because to really understand on a personal level how to work with the energy, we have to really see how it's directly placed in their astrological charts. But I do offer these insights just as inspiration and just things to think about for yourself personally, as well as globally and universally. Now, we begin July with, on July 4th, which certainly happy 4th of July and many blessings to everyone on this birthday of the United States. July 4th, Neptune will move retrograde. Now, Neptune began its transit of Aries, but it will be dipping back into Pisces. It will move back into Pisces on October 22nd, and it will fully begin its transit of Aries at the end of January of 2026. While Neptune has been transiting Pisces, it's been giving us an opportunity to really go deep within ourselves. It's almost like there's a psychic rotor-rooter that's been taking place. Much discord from the past, as well as the distant past, which some might refer to as karma, even ancestral karma, is being purged, cleared, and released so that we can begin again. You know, Pisces completes the cycle of the zodiac. Aries begins the cycle. So whenever a specific element like Neptune is going into the sign of Aries, we are beginning a new monumental journey, chapter, whatever that might be. Once Neptune fully moves into Aries, it really does begin on a spiritual level a new cycle of experience. You know, in Pisces, as Neptune was transiting Pisces, universally we are being given the opportunity to just clear away whatever spiritual, even religious beliefs, if you will, no longer serve a purpose for us. We understand, and it's not to discredit conventional religion, but there are many misunderstandings, or rather half-truths, if you will, in conventional religion. Metaphysically, we understand that religion has really been designed to really control and manipulate and suppress humanity. It doesn't necessarily encourage us to understand the actual purpose of our being. That being said, I'm not here to discredit religion, because I do believe that there is merit in all religions. However, conventional teachings have very much been misconstrued. And as Neptune was transiting Pisces, on a personal level, we were being offered to really the opportunity to explore higher truth as it applies to us on a personal level. One of the many things that I've talked about is how there is no absolute truth. Nothing in this realm of consciousness is absolute. It's all relative. And Albert Einstein proved that understanding, this theory of relativity. In this realm of consciousness, as I said, nothing is absolute, and that does apply to our beliefs and our higher truths. Especially during these most auspicious times, we are inspired to really recognize our own personal truth, with whatever that might be, as well as honoring and respecting the truth of another, even when it diametrically opposes our own. No truth is inaccurate or incorrect. We are encouraged to welcome our own truth, our own higher truth, to live and enjoy that truth always from a place of love, while honoring and respecting the higher truth of another, especially when it diametrically opposes our own higher truth. Once Neptune fully begins its passage in Aries, there will be a new chapter commencing regarding spirituality and understanding of spirituality, especially who we are individually as well as collectively from that spiritual realm. On July 7th, Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. Uranus began its sign of Taurus about 7-8 years ago. Uranus requires about 7 or 8 years to complete the passage of one sign. An entire Uranus cycle is composed of 84 years, give or take, a few here and there, depending upon its retrograde cycle. But Uranus began its passage of Gemini about May of 2023. It dipped back into Taurus, and it will fully begin its passage of Gemini on July 7th. And as it transits Gemini, which is the planet of communication, certainly we will observe many changes taking place overall in communications, especially how we communicate with one another. We've been inspired for many years to really, and one of the things I learned a very, very long time ago is to recognize and establish an alignment in my thoughts and words. When there's an incongruency in our thinking and the words that we speak, as well as with our feelings, we are not necessarily bringing to form all it is that we desire, as well as really living in our truth. If we say one thing, or rather if we think one thing but speak another, there's an incongruency there, and it brings about a condition of imbalance in our lives. With Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini, we are so becoming even more acutely aware of the power of the spoken words and how we are absolutely creating our realities through thinking and our words. The creative process is thought, word, and deed. The thinking and the words are very much Gemini elements. So as Uranus transits the sign which most represents communications, certainly we are becoming even more acutely aware of the power of the spoken word and this creative process. Many forms of communication in the outside world will also begin to dramatically change, and this change is allowing us to become in alignment with the higher realms, and how from a higher vibrational frequency, when we are really being, or rather engaging in communication from a higher vibrational frequency, because Uranus is all about awareness and the universal understanding of oneness and brotherhood. The areas of communication, especially in the media, programming, television programming, which one of the things I've always said, there's a reason why television is referred to as programming, because it conditions us. It's more about indoctrination than inspiration. We will see how forms of communications like television will really very much change, so to create platforms that actually inspire and actually properly inform instead of misinforming, as it has been for a multitude of years. Now we have our next full moon on July 10th. The full moon is in the sign of Capricorn. The exact time of the full moon is 4:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it's in the sign of Capricorn. One of the things with Capricorn, remember, full moons, they heighten the energy, they cause us to be acutely more aware of certain things. In the sign of Capricorn, we're really being inspired to move forward with our personal goals and desires. Capricorn also represents, as I understand, because it's at the highest point in the natural zodiac, in the natural astrological chart, it represents our greater purpose. I've been speaking of this for many years, and I'm finding that during private consultations, so many are being inspired to really recognize a greater purpose, a higher purpose, and there's no wrong or right with whatever that might be. As long as we can honor that from a place of love and be very humble with that, knowing whatever that might be for us on a personal level, in some way, shape, or form, it will offer a greater service to humanity. So never discredit what it is that you are pursuing, especially understanding what it is that you are being. One of my sayings is also that we're human beings, we're not human doings. In this human encounter, we are inspired to recognize, among many things, that we are spiritual beings. We don't originate on Earth. We come to Earth in this lower dimension, which is sometimes the world of density and matter, which sometimes it can be very difficult to navigate. However, whenever we are operating at a higher vibrational frequency, meaning that we are being at a higher vibrational state, it's less difficult and it's less of a challenge to navigate sometimes these very dense waters of this human encounter. And what I'm suggesting, which a lot of times I do deviate and go off on a tangent and I digress from my initial intention, but when we're addressing all things spiritually, sometimes that's how it all does seem to unfold. At this full moon, just allow yourself to become even more acutely aware of a greater purpose, your own personal contributions to the overall wellness of humanity. As long as we are being in a place of love, whatever it is that we are demonstrating, that's what's really important. It doesn't matter what it is. Even if you are, just creating something so very simple as, crocheting a blanket for someone, imagine the energy that you are encoded into that creation. When it's from a place of love and you share it with others, you are radiating that love to the all of humanity. And look how wonderful and extraordinary that is. So at this full moon, really just be very humble and ask Spirit to share with you, if you're not already clear as to what that might be, what is your greater purpose as to why it is you are here during this specific time, during this human experience, so that you can bring forth a great change first within yourself, and then that change radiates to the all of humanity. I'm always suggesting and inspiring everyone to be the change that you desire to enjoy in the world. So many endeavor towards correcting another. We're not here to correct or make someone else wrong. It's more important about what it is that we are being. And there's nothing, as I understand, there's nothing greater or more important than being in a place of love. One of the many opportunities that we will be recognizing in these next few years, and it's specifically connected with an alignment with Uranus and Neptune, is to fully, purely, powerfully understand the power of love. For many years, especially, it really started, this understanding of the power of love really began in the 1960s. And that specifically has to do with a cycle of experience with Mars, Uranus, and Pluto during that time, which, we heard about the free love experiences and all of this. But in the times that we are in now, it's so much more important to really understand the power of love and what is contained in that element and what it is capable of demonstrating and achieving throughout all of humanity. If the majority of humanity, when the majority of humanity, and we're not quite there yet, is existing in every moment of every day as much as possible from that place of love, what unfolds in the outside world is extraordinary. We're not here to fix someone else. We're here to recognize what it is that we are being. And when we are being in that place of love, that's what we radiate to all of humanity. And that's what creates some of the most auspicious shifts and changes in our world. Now, I was referring to the understanding of welcoming the understanding and the awakening and awareness of a greater purpose. Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn, will move retrograde on July 13th, and the exact time of that is 12:07 a.m. Saturn is what's referred to as the planet of karma. Saturn has been transiting Pisces for about 2 years. Saturn transit of a specific sign is about 2 years. A Saturn cycle is about 29 years. Saturn will fully begin its passage of Aries on February 14th of 2026. Now, as Saturn has been transiting Pisces, which Saturn is the planet that most represents karma, Pisces is also connected with karma. There's been an intensified clearing of karma personally and collectively that's been taking place. Now, whenever I speak of karma, many believe karma to be a reward and punishment experience. Karma, when we speak of clearing karma, it's a more accurate understanding of that experience is that there is an establishment of balance where there's been imbalance. Karma is simply about receiving whatever it is that you're putting out there. Whatever it is that you put out there, you will receive back. It's not necessarily reward and punishment. It's not necessarily bad or good. Karma is about establishing balance where there's been imbalance. Saturn, the sign which most represents balance is Libra. And when Saturn transits Libra, it is said to be exalted in that sign, because that's whenever a planet is in a sign where it's referred to as being exalted, it's when it's placed in the position where it can tap into its greatest potential. Saturn is about creating that balance as well. So as Saturn has been transiting Pisces, there has been an intensified clearing of karma taking place, especially universally, once it begins its passage of Aries next year in February. Then we will begin a new karmic cycle of experience. So much of what is being established now is to really clear away that karmic discord, which just doesn't serve a purpose for us anymore. Many on a personal level have been inspired to really look at some deep-seated karma that goes back lifetimes, sometimes even 3 lifetimes. I've dealt with clients, I've had client experiences where they are contending with these karmic matters that go back sometimes 3 lifetimes. When you look at an astrological chart, we can see every facet of someone's life, including the embodiment prior to this embodiment. And certainly we can go back a few lifetimes as well. And I've had experiences where there are some clients who have been inspired to correct karma from many, many lifetimes. And that's an extraordinary experience, because quite often when we are being inspired to really recognize how much karma that we're here to correct in this lifetime, it is an indication and suggestion that this human experience may be, or rather this may be the last time our spiritual being is required to embody in this physical form. There are many indications that do indicate that this lifetime could be the final embodiment for a spirit in physical form. Now, we have our next Mercury retrograde coming up. Now, Mercury will move retrograde on July 8th and that the exact time of that retrograde is 12:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Mercury requires about 3 weeks to move retrograde. Mercury, I'm just looking at my chart here. Mercury will move retrograde in the sign of Leo. Leo is the element that most represents our creative divinity. And I'm going to touch upon something else a little bit later in this video as well. We're all creative beings. And creativity is not specific to art and music. Creativity is multifaceted. So as Mercury transits the sign which most represents creativity as well as divinity, we're inspired to just reflect on our own creative potential in whatever that might be. One of the things I've said for many, many years is that when we demonstrate ourselves creatively, we connect with divinity. When we connect with divinity, we are able to demonstrate ourselves creatively. Just imagine that power, and whatever that might be, Mother, Father, God, Spirit, Universe, Source, however it is that we want to refer to that element as such, that power which created everything on earth as well as in the cosmos, that ability is within ourselves, within everyone, no one left out. So during this Mercury retrograde, it is an auspicious opportunity to remember, because Mercury retrogrades, it's a time about remembering. We employ all the RE words during the Mercury retrograde, like remembering things that we've forgotten about, reconnecting with people that we lost touch with. This Mercury retrograde is an auspicious opportunity to remember your creative evolutionary potential and power that is within every one of us. And then once we are arriving at that place of remembrance, to move forward accordingly from that place of love. Leo also represents love and being childlike. There's an adage that says we must be childlike in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, or something along those lines. That childlike element, quality in all of us, is something that many of us, especially as we transition into adulthood with all the responsibilities that we seem to have, we forget how we have that childlike quality in all of us. And that also allows us to remember our divinity. It allows us to remember love. It allows us to remember the innocence that is so very much forgotten these days. So it's another suggestion during this Mercury retrograde in Leo to remember that childlike quality about yourself, that innocence, because all of that allows us to really enjoy this human experience from such a place of love and joy. There's an adage that says, believe as a child believes, and the magic will find you. Remember how being a child, especially during the holiday season, specifically with Christmas, how a child, there's such innocence with a child, and how it just believes in the magic of Christmas. Imagine if every one of us, especially as adults, could remember that quality, how extraordinary our lives would become. So during this Mercury retrograde, remember your childlike quality, as well as so many other blessings about yourself and your being. On July 22nd, now speaking of creativity and divinity and love and childlikeness, the sun transits into the sign of Leo, which represents all of those elements. So whenever the sun transits a specific sign, the qualities of that sign are energized. And you've heard me speak about this for many years. There is what is known as the opening of the Lion's Gate portal. The specific dates of that, the opening begins on July 28th. It culminates on August 8th, and it closes again on August 13th. That period is another opportunity to remember how we are creative beings and to tap into that creative divinity. The opening of the Lion's Gate portal represents and is represented by the rising of two suns at the moment of sunrise locally. Our sun Helios as well as the sun Sirius. At the moment of sunrise locally, during that time, both of those suns are rising on the horizon. In Egypt, it was represented by the flooding of the Nile, which fortified the land. The Lionsgate portal experience is about fortifying our creativity, because every one of us, as I said, every one of us has that evolutionary creative element within all of us. And this is the opportunity throughout the year to remember that and to demonstrate that. And it's specifically connected to the Lionsgate portal. Now we have our next new moon, which will be in the sign of Leo on July 24th. The exact time is 3:11 p.m. Now, before, I always emphasize the last phase of the lunar cycle, which is right before the new moon, which is the balsamic moon phase. The last stage of the lunar cycle, is on July 21st. And that period begins at 5:31 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's the opportunity to prepare for the coming lunar cycle, which begins on the new moon. And the new moon, again, July 24th at 3:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The new moon, it's in the early degrees. It's just over 2 degrees of Leo. So the first... Each sign, there are so many facets of astrology that most don't even recognize how multifaceted and extraordinary and multidimensional astrology actually is. Each sign is divided into what's referred to as 3 decans, between 0 and 10 degrees, then 11 to about 20 degrees, then 21 to 29 degrees. Each of those 3 dimensions of the sign have different properties to them. In the early stages of any sign, that's when the main characteristics are most tapped into. And with this new moon in such an early degree of Leo, I'm just reinforcing and reiterating what I said earlier about remembering how creative we are. And that creativity is multifaceted, multidimensional, and is not specific to art and music. That every one of us is a creative being, and it's about tapping into our ideas and the imagination, and then demonstrating those ideas. So at this new moon, let this be another opportunity to really move forward with anything creative that you feel you have been feeling inspired to really pursue. And allow yourself to recognize that you are a creative being, and to also recognize whatever specific unique quality that is personal to you regarding whatever that demonstration of creativity may be. A main remembrance, if you will, of who we are while we are in this human experience is to remember our element of creative divinity. I believe that is one of the most extraordinary remembrances that we can really welcome while on this human journey. I don't believe that we are really here to really learn anything. It's more about, or as I understand it, it's more precise and more accurate an understanding that we are here to remember who we are. When we come into this human form, we come in with a state of amnesia, which in part it really is a blessing, because if we fully would remember where we came from, most probably wouldn't want to continue in this human form. So we are here to really remember our essence of divinity, which is very much in alignment with creativity. So once again, everyone, I thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of the very few astrological and spiritual potentials of the month of July. I wish everyone a very safe, happy, and blessed 4th of July holiday here in the United States. Enjoy the celebrations, especially about reconnecting and connecting with our loved ones and those who are most dear to us. But even connecting perhaps with someone who may not have those blessings for themselves as well. Thank you, everyone. Remain in the light, forever in a place of love, and we will connect again very soon. Many blessings. Namaste.